Blog Talk Radio.
I want to thank everyone who's been listening so far. I'd also like to remind our listeners that today's show is sponsored by IC&S Managed Services. If IT issues are driving you crazy and costing you time and money, let IC&S Managed Services be your 24/7 remote IT lifeline, on-site but out of sight. Call 440-891-0465 or visit www.icnsinc.com to learn more. And a reminder that if you'd like to participate in today's conversations, you can press 1 if you're on the phone, and that will let me know you have something to share. Or you can type something into the chat room, and I will share it with our upcoming guest, who is Jennifer Chernisky. Jennifer is the president and founder of Jennasis And Associates. She began her career after graduating from Baldwin-Wallace College. After several years in the education field, Jennifer took a few years off to begin her family. During this period, she gained valuable experience doing virtual work for a group of doctors and dentists in Northeast Ohio and in business startup and growth with local entrepreneurs. Through this experience, the dream was planted for Jennifer to start her own business. Jennasis and Associates has transformed greatly since it began in early 2011. Jennifer initially maintained and ran the business as a sole worker. Since being featured in the Plain Dealer on January 1st, 2012, business has soared, with Jennasis clientele expanding past Northeast Ohio into numerous states throughout the United States. In 1 year, the Jennasis team grew to include 14 industry experts, including 2 graphic designers, a web designer, a social media expert, numerous writers, an event coordinator, a marketing director, and numerous virtual assistants. Jennasis has been a dream come true for Jennifer, as she is able to serve as an integral part of making so many businesses successful and efficient while maintaining her central role as a mom to her 3 beautiful children. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Diane. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Thanks so much for joining us today. We had a great session in the first half about using technology in your business, and it is a perfect segue into outsourcing for your business to make sure that it stays strong and growing. So I'd like us to start with asking you to share with the listeners about what is really the goal for outsourcing, in your opinion.
All right. The goal as we have partnered over the last year and a half with different businesses and entrepreneurs, is that our heart is to allow the business, that sole person, to really focus on their gifts and talents, and where they may have started a business around web design, or they may have started a business around coaching. They may have started a business on public speaking. And the goal then for outsourcing is to take all those extra things that consume our time and energy away from that entrepreneur, in order for them to focus in on their passions, gifts, where they get the most return on their investment emotionally, physically, spiritually, monetarily, and that the things that kind of just get on the back burner, the things that fall off their plate every month, that is the ideal thing that they can outsource.
So it's funny that the stuff that goes on the back burner, because it's all that stuff that people don't like to do but really need
Correct.
to get done in business, right?
Correct.
So it's a problem, because when business owners don't do that stuff, eventually it bites them.
Correct.
And it's stuff that has to get done. You're absolutely right. They should not be doing it. So outsourcing it is a way, right, for them to be able to get that stuff done without having to hire and do all those things, so they can focus.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really great. So having said that, what are some of the reasons that you think deter people from actually doing it? Because not everyone's doing it. So what do you think gets in their way?
I think there's several key components. Being in the Midwest region of the U.S., I actually have found out a lot of people didn't even know what a virtual assistant was, or outsourcing on a normal basis. It was kind of the the mindset that you had an office, you had, someone to answer your phone, someone to do payroll, but it was all in-house.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of that unknown that I actually have found and was surprised at the last, several years. A lot of people didn't even know that this was an option. And recently, I would say over the last 6 months, it seems to really pick up energy and awareness in this area, whereas, in California, New York City, D.C., it's very prevalent and has been very prevalent for the last decade or so. So I think there's just some unknown factors of how it works, the benefits of it. I think there's components of fear, fear of control, especially for a sole entrepreneur where they've had to wear numerous hats and had to kind of maintain, their financial components, their scheduling, their getting their resources and their materials together, and that sense of letting go of control and letting go of a little bit of their heart and their passion can be a trust factor or a fear factor. So those would be some of the first few things that come to mind. But there's just a lot of misconceptions around what outsourcing is. It seems that there's a lot of thought that it goes overseas, or it's not done right here in the region you're at, but it's this, we're going to send it overseas to get it done because that's, what's been familiar. But it's done right here, and it's, it's local, and for the most part it can be done, obviously throughout the whole country, but there's a lot of different fears, misunderstandings. There's actually the notion that outsourcing can be more expensive, and I think that's one that can be misunderstood because it's a higher hourly rate. Yet it's a concentrated time and effort, and you don't have to worry about, someone chatting at the in the copy room or paying for downtime. And so there's a misconception that it's more expensive, but you're actually getting it's actually more cost effective because it's concentrated time on delivery. So,
that's a really good point. And I have a question for you because, your business has really grown, and so now you're working with companies throughout the United States. And I would think that one of the fears that you talk about is people feeling like they don't mind the virtual part, but they want to be able to at least sit down face-to-face with the person at the beginning or maybe periodically through things. They sort of want to know they're reachable physically. So how do you overcome that? Because I get the whole virtual thing, but I would imagine there's a lot of people who don't. So how do you get clients throughout the United States buying into the whole idea? Is it because they already get it, or?
Some of them actually do. They already get it. They're already familiar with it. But then it's just scheduling phone conferences and trying, if we can get face-to-face time on the computer, it's great. If you can just do a phone conference as a check-in, in any of the initial clients that we get, I try to do a once-a-week check-in over the phone or a every other week check-in over the phone. So that way I can hear their voice, I can hear inflection, I can hear not just black and white, what you see on your computer screen. So that check-in is really important, and it seems that once you hit a city or a state or an industry outside of where you're currently located, then you just get referral-based. And so it's easy then to say, hey, I know this girl based out of, Cleveland, Ohio that, has been a lifesaver in this element or this component, or she can do this. And so then it just builds referral-based.
So let's talk about some of the ways a business can save money by outsourcing, like either a project or using a virtual assistant. Because you touched on it and you mentioned the thing about it's a higher hourly rate, but can you go into a little more detail on that?
Sure. It is a higher hourly rate. So think of having someone in your office and you're paying them X amount of money per hour, but there's that component. Are they working for 4 hours concentrated? I'm sitting in front of the computer and just going to knock it out for 4 hours. Or are they up taking bathroom breaks? Are they chatting with their coworkers? Are they stopping at the coffee room? So there's some lull and downtime of just having that community-based where it's relational within an office, but you're paying for the extra stuff. Whereas when you outsource to a virtual assistant, then it's concentrated. Like when I sit down and work, I clock in, clock out, and it may be 20 minutes, but that's all I charge for. And then if it's, an hour or two later and I work another half hour, that's what I charge for. So what they get is a real concentrated burst of work, and they only pay for that. So they only pay as needed. But then there's the thing of so much savings that they're not paying for medical insurance. They're not paying for retirement. They're not paying for computer equipment or things to be fixed. So those little things that they don't have to pay for that really add up, vacation schedules, maternity leave, sick days, they don't pay for those extra things if they would have someone in the office. They only pay for what they're ordering and what they get what's delivered to them. So there is definitely that cost efficient, and sometimes people are a little bit surprised by the initial hourly rate, but when they see all the other ways that they save money and the end product that is to their standard or exceeds their standard, then they're usually very pleased and repeat customers.
Yeah, and do you find so let's talk about what kinds of projects would you recommend that businesses outsource? Are there really certain kinds of things that you see over and over again?
There are. When we started, we really kind of put the fishing net out wide and to see what kind of business do entrepreneurs and businesses really need and want. Yeah. And it seems that, you get a few hits on or interest here or there, but it seems that there's really a core area of repeat, like you said, and a lot of it can be around creative writing. So we have a really strong writing department, and that can be just to write the articles for their newsletter or proofread. Maybe they just need an extra set of eyes over something that they've developed and written themselves, or blog articles. So that's something that we do ongoing, is just writing components, getting their newsletters out, proofreading, and then areas like social media, where they know the importance of social media, but they don't want to take the time to either learn it or run it. So there's that they know they want it, they know they should have it, they don't know what they should be tweeting, they don't know what they should be putting on their Facebook fan page. And so that's another area that we really work with the client, one, to educate them, but then two, to also offer if they want us to run it for them. And, here's some of our ideas, here's some of industry-related articles, here's how you can, present yourself as an expert in your field. So those two areas are ones that we get a lot. And then just virtual admin work, so things like preparing just simple Excel documents for speakers or consultants that go in and do a 360 assessment, and they just need all that data put into a spreadsheet that's manageable and a summary statement for them, participation manuals. So a lot of presentation materials for consultants that we do, where they want to go in and do the assessment, they want to go in and do the work, but maybe they don't have time to put the final presentation together or the summary statement or even the materials to get them into the door of what they want to present to their clients. So those kind of things we see very regularly. So those would be the areas that we really seem to have concentrated on, I would say, specifically over the last 6 months, where we've kind of started pulling in the net a little bit more and saying we're not really getting much interest around X, Y, or Z, even though we may still get a little bit of business, but these areas seem to be repetitive. Yeah.
So, interestingly, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, so if people think about it in terms of instead of hiring a marketing department, which makes no sense for a solopreneur, a very small business, you outsource that function to like an organization like yours, or, someone virtually who that's their level of expertise, that's the thing that they do, right? So they sit down with you, they go over all of that, they ask questions, they go over all the aspects of it, and then they create those things for you so that you aren't spending the time struggling, trying to figure out what to say, how to say it, when that's not really your forte, right? Like when you were talking about the whole blog post thing, and I was like chuckling to myself because I have clients who'll say, I'm not blogging, I wouldn't know what to say, I can't write, and, it's like, okay, but you gotta. So, let's figure it out. So
exactly. And sometimes it's just them giving us a subject or, hey, can you write this is something I want to write on, and maybe here's 3 bullet points. Can you just develop the content around it? So it's still their voice, their thought, but they don't have the time or the passion to write, and so we develop that content around, and we do it all under their name, their business name. So it's not our name being promoted. It looks like they have this marketing department, they have a social media department, they have a graphic designer on their team, because it's all coming out underneath their business name. Right,
exactly. So, and social media is that other big thing that people really don't want to take the time to do, but they really have to be doing it. So, and they still have to be doing part of it, but if the bulk of it, they can have someone else doing for them.
Exactly.
And then when we talk about, like the clerical items, like, invoicing, I'm trying to think of, sending out a direct mail piece. I love the whole thing about, collating information after they go to an event or they do a 360, or, entering business card information when they're, when they go. And then, and I think you said it, it would be like doing their monthly newsletter and making sure the articles for that and making sure that thing gets out right and on time. Those are those, if the business owner stops and thinks about, okay, here's all the junk I got to do in my business, and here's the part that I should be doing because it generates revenue, chances are good it's all those other things.
Exactly. And I'm pretty emphatic with clients for them to not outsource things that don't make sense, things that come easy to them, things that they may enjoy. I have clients who actually really enjoy writing, and so for me, is that something that you enjoy and it's passionate, it's a good outlet, then don't outsource that. Maybe we proofread it and get it into your newsletter for you, but it wouldn't make sense if it's something you already have a really good habit around. If you have a good habit around entering your stuff into QuickBooks or entering your financial stuff into an Excel document, then let's not start there. Maybe we get there eventually, but don't start there if you already have a good habit around something in your business. The things that you always put to the bottom of the pile, or you always ignore, or you think, what, I can do it. Those are the things that I really encourage individuals to start with and test us and see if it's a good, working relationship. Do you like the end results? And the other thing that we're really passionate about is the feedback that we get from our clientele. Do we have the voice that you want us to have because it's coming from your office?
Right.
Do we have the typeset? Do we have the font? Do we have the color schemes correct? Because it's from their office, their desk. So that feedback from entrepreneurs is vital.
So, I would think so. Now, what do you think about if someone decides, they have a whole bunch of different kinds of things that they would like to outsource? Should they try and I would imagine that it's relatively hard to find one company that excels at all of those things.
Correct.
So should they, is it cool to find a couple of different companies and, have this outsourced firm do X and that one do Y?
I think so. I think it's a great relational base where you really feel like you connect. Like I said before, I put the net out wide when we started, but I did not want to become the supermart for business owners. Like I didn't want to be the one-stop shop because maybe we don't excel at a certain area. Maybe our strengths aren't there. And it was a good time just to test the waters and see what team members came to me, what team members did I have on my team, how much capacity could they put on their plate. So I would say if they can find, 3 places to outsource and they have great relationships in 3 different places, I think that's a perfect match. I don't think it has to be under one business or one outsourcing agent. It can be a graphic designer through here, a virtual assistant through here, a web designer through here, and if it works for you, then that's the beauty of being that you can really pick and choose the people that you want on your team.
Right, depending on their skill level. So,
exactly.
And I would think that having more than one would also, when we talk about deterrence and encouragements, I think some people would feel more comfortable knowing they'd spread it out so they weren't vulnerable, where they had all their eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to do even with my team members, is just to diversify what we offer so that we don't have all of our eggs in one basket in one industry. Because what if that, or with one specialty, what if that falls apart, or what if that person moves, or what if that person retires or something? So we also try to diversify what we offer so that our eggs aren't all in one basket as well.
So, and you just mentioned industry, and so I'm curious about that. Do you think it matters whether the outsourced firm has experience in a certain industry, or is business business? I mean,
I think it's both and. The ones, like the people who partner with Jennasis with social media and web design and graphics are people who've been in the industry for 20, 25 years. So it's they're seasoned individuals who have kept up with the market. But I do enjoy bringing on new virtual assistants who want to learn as well. So it's a great avenue that maybe they have a certain skill set and maybe they don't know constant contact. Maybe they don't know social media, but they're eager to learn. And so it can be an easy transition to start small and then test the waters of what those individuals want to learn as well. Okay.
So now what kind of questions do you ask a business owner if they come to you and they say they're thinking about outsourcing some things? What kind of questions do you ask so you can determine, if they should, and if they should, where in their, which things in their business?
There's a few key questions that I ask in our initial kind of assessment and, doing the dance around each other, is what frustrates you each month that you really want to implement and build into your business, but you can't. And so there's like a frustration piece. It's that point of pain that maybe, hey, I really need to put out a newsletter every month, but I can't do it. I have too many face-to-face times. I have too many times with clients. I have to do my invoicing and billing. So I ask kind of that pain, like what's that pain point? Another question is, what is their best mode of communication? How do they want us to interact with them? Do they want emails? Do they need phone calls? Are okay with text messages? Because it's not the typical, we're going to see each other at the office 3 times a week and be able to catch up and get that extra 5 minutes here and there to touch base. It's just the project in, project out. And so that mode of communication to say, hey, we got it done, and now what? And the other component is we really need deadlines to say if it's ambiguous and it seems like open-ended, to really focus the individual of their communication and their expectations. So the clear expectation of us to the client, what we need for them, and from the client back to us, what they need from us, is essential. But then going back to what should we outsource, it may be a component that they want to add to their business. Maybe it's something, like I said, that just falls off their plate every month because they think they can do it, but they don't. Yeah. So it can be a whole variety of areas. And again, I just start with that kind of that pain point of, you know what, every month I cannot get my receipts into my Excel, spreadsheet. I think I can, or I can't keep up with my mileage. I think I can, but it just seems like I put it off, and then when it comes tax season, I spend 2 weeks in my office gathering it all together. Right. So what's a good system to set them up, successfully? Is that them emailing, scanning and emailing receipts, or a shared calendar so we can keep up with their mileage? Simple things like that maybe just takes an hour a month that they just get off their plate, but they think that they can do, and because it's not an essential deadline to them that they put off.
Yeah, and that it's such a great example, because that hour a month that they would pay you for, if they don't do that, then they're taking 2 weeks, which is 80 hours, right, away from their business, away from revenue generation, trying to get that thing done when all they had to do was pay for 12 hours for the year, and know it's done.
Exactly. And it could just be the simple mileage and the receipt. Just think of how much time that takes at the end of the year if you've not done it all year. So those 2 simple things, and then they gather all their other information, and maybe they spend 1 day on it and only have 1 day that they are taking away from their, time that they can have with clients and where they're making money. but they've really set themselves up for success all year long with a minimum 1 hour a month payment.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's such an interesting melding of topics today, because when, we had Tina on earlier and she was talking about using technology in your business, this is one of the ways that you do it, where
Absolutely.
you harness the value of technology and let someone, because of, you just mentioned shared calendars. I mean, it's huge. So there are so many opportunities to do things that are of low cost that save you so much time in the long run and can actually, because then you get to refocus, and that was one of the things that Tina was talking about, that you can grow your business, grow your revenues, because your attention is where it needs to be.
Exactly.
And these, small businesses that are struggling with this stuff, it's just unnecessary. I won't even say it's crazy, but it's unnecessary.
Exactly. And it's nice because once you get that, once you establish that relationship with a client, I get blind CC'd on emails all the time where the client is emailing their clients, and they blind CC, and it's just for the purpose of putting it on their calendar. So it's like that song and dance that there doesn't have to be the directions anymore. There doesn't have to be, can you please put this on my calendar? It's just there's that fluidity that they don't have to think of, now I have to go back into my Google Calendar or my email calendar or my Outlook and get that all synced up so that my iPhone and my computer and my iPad are all linked up. A simple blind CC, which takes about 2 to 3 seconds, it's done. So it's one of those things that they just, it's easy to form a habit around, and it saves 30 minutes a week, which is 2 hours a month. So it's those little things that once you get that relationship established, or that trust established, that can really be advantageous to the client.
And I would think for a small business owner who this is something new for them, starting out small, starting out with one thing, maybe one repetitive thing that they are currently doing that they shouldn't be doing, or that thing that never gets done.
Absolutely.
Just that one thing till they get used to it. Because another thing you mentioned was, then it's habit forming, and that really is the key. Once they get into the habit of it, but they don't necessarily want to wholesale throw out a whole bunch of stuff. It's too hard to
that's
track.
A big risk. Right. That's a big risk.
Right.
Yeah, that's
exactly. A big risk. And it's too hard for them to develop a system around,
Absolutely.
so it's almost set up for failure that way.
Absolutely. And I had a client who hired me probably at mid-January, and good to go, and this is what I want. And it was like 2 weeks, and I finally emailed the client. I said, you have to, send an email with instructions. And there was a chuckle behind it. You actually have to start, letting go and releasing that little bit of, I do have a virtual assistant now, and I have to hit the send button with instructions or project. And so it was that, yes, I'm good, and I'm going, and I'm moving forward, but it was that fear place of, or habit place. They just weren't used to adding someone into their, their email log. So
exactly, that's exactly right. So slow and steady, one thing at a time.
Exactly.
Don't feel like you have to wholesale change.
Yep, exactly, and build that trust and that relationship, and it ebbs and flows. There may be times where you have 10 hours a week, and then the next week it's a half hour, and the next week it's 20 minutes. But it's really driven by the client and what their needs are at that time. So maybe they have an event or big presentation, and we're really cranking out the work for them, and then they don't need us for 2 weeks because they're kind of in that lull. And that's the nice part, is they're not paying for downtime having an assistant in their office. They're paying for the work when they need it.
Right. Wow, great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Diane.
Would you please share with our listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about your business?
Absolutely. We're on the web, so we're www.JennasisAssociates.com, JENNASIS Associates, and business number is 440-429-2257.
Wait a minute,
440-429-2257, and you will get a hold of me, and we can go from there.
Well, that is just wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'd like to thank all of our listeners for tuning in today. I think you got some really great information in this hour and in each of these half hours with things that you can do in your business. Please remember to visit our sponsor, ICNS, at www.icnsinc.com or call 440-891-0465.